Hi, friends, and welcome to 15241 Today Talk. Jim Render and I are real pleased to have with us Kevin Orie, former Upper St. Clair star athlete who was a first-round pick of the Chicago Cubs in 1992?
But 93.
93,
Yep,
okay.
93.
And was Rookie of the Year candidate in his first big year in the big leagues. You know, Jim, you're always saying that I dominate this show. So I'm going to back off a little bit, and you go ahead. You start things off with Kevin.
You threw me a curve there. I didn't know I was going to do this.
That's a good baseball term, curve. That's really good, yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin Orie is one of the few three-sport athletes that I personally had in my career. And you know, in the old days when I played, that wasn't uncommon. But each year since, it's kind of a rarity. But Kevin was an outstanding football player, moved to the basketball court in the winter, and of course, baseball was a passion of his that led him on to the major leagues. And he was a marvelous guy and marvelous athlete. And we're sitting right below where he grew up. So tell us your fond memories of growing up in Upper St. Clair.
Oh, wow. Don't know where to begin, but I do say it. I say it all the time, you know, about I wouldn't change anything about where I grew up, anything. You know, one of 9 kids, so our house always had, we were kind of the epicenter of activity, sports. We had, you know, full football fields. We'd mow the yard lines in. My father wasn't happy about that. We had the base paths. We had actually like a mini Wrigley field in the backyard for a wiffle ball field. We had, you know, goalposts were built out of bamboo. I mean, you name it, we did it back there, and it was great. So everybody came to our house. You know, obviously being right next to the high school, right next to the football stadium, seeing from our back deck, being able to look right in at Upper St. Clair High School Stadium was pretty awesome, and having siblings to play. So, you know, we had the gatherings before the game. We all put on our football jerseys, and we played tackle football in the backyard, and then we'd go down to the game and watch the game, come back to the house after for the post-game party, which was typically a good party because we were accustomed to winning, which was a good thing. So it was just a great pipeline for everything, but as far as football went, I mean, that's what it's all about. You know, as you know, you get started young, and it just becomes part of you, and you can't wait to be the next generation or the next era to step on that football field, and you learn so much. And you know, going down and watching practices, you know, I was there all the time. So it was a benefit, and then by the time you're ready for it or you get the opportunity, hopefully it's, you know, it's like riding a bike. So it made things very easy. So this was the greatest place, in my opinion, to grow up, and very biased about it, but truly fortunate, really, that my father and mother chose St. Clair rather than Peters Township way back in the day, because he was working out in Washington, PA. So he was trying to make a decision, and there was a lot of land, and, you know, build a house there or build a house here. And I think at the last minute opted for Westminster Manor, one of the first houses in there, and it kind of grew around us because, I don't know, if we came in there late, they may have kicked us out.
I'm glad he made that choice. Kevin, we talked about this. I've talked about it many times. One of my favorite trivia questions. We played in the state championship game, 1989, and the quarterback for the other team was Kerry Collins, who had a good career at Penn State and then in the National Football League. To ice the victory that night in Hershey, Kevin intercepted a pass. And then, of course, to fast forward to his baseball career, he eventually hit a home run off of Roger Clemens. So one of my favorite trivia questions is, who's the only man to intercept a pass off a NFL quarterback, Kerry Collins, and then later hit a home run off of Roger Clemens? And the answer, of course, is Kevin Orie. So he was a marvelous athlete. Tell us about that interception. I'd like to hear it again.
I bet you would.
Yeah, well, I mean, that game, as we all remember, shouldn't have been as close as it was. And the next thing you know, what was it, 10 below wind chill? It was the coldest game
20.
20, hardest I've ever hit the ground in my life. And I wasn't running the football, unless I'd picked the ball off or caught one. I wasn't on the ground all day long. But my knee, man, it took a while just from getting up after that tackle, after the interception. But, the pressure was on. Suddenly, they had a chance to come down, and Westlawn Wilson had a chance, led by Kerry Collins, who was very dangerous, by far the strongest arm that we had faced. And he was a little bit more mobile than we thought. So in his ball and 10 below or 20 below, it's a different kind of football to catch. I don't think the Steelers would be catching that football today. Well, we saw what happened. We don't need to go there, but the ball was on you. So as we were slowly backing, up in our own territory, and they were making a bit of a run, they had a play. He kind of rolled right a little bit, and I found myself in the back third of the end zone with a receiver in front of me and a receiver behind me, and it was just me. So there was some room, but they were kind of flooding toward the sideline. So I put myself between them and was kind of shifting behind, defensive players, trying to stay out of sight. And, it's just one of those things, talking about the backyard earlier and instincts. The play, it just kind of slowed down for me, and I knew what I had to do, and I couldn't commit to one guy too soon. So I wanted him to believe that I was going to jump the front guy, which was a closer, easier pass for him versus the guy over my right shoulder. So I'd give it was almost like a head fake, a little pump fake, and committed to that guy very late. And then at that point, he committed that he was going to throw to the guy behind me, and I just kind of waited, and as soon as he released it, I just kind of jumped back and read his eyes, I guess, and secured it, and then had to make the decision whether or not I should run it out of the end zone or not. Probably best to just hit the dirt, but I was feeling too good at that point. I knew I could get out at least a reasonable distance, and one thing I knew I wasn't going to do is fumble the football at that point. So I had a death grip on that football, and they came behind me and tried to strip it and put a lot of weight on that side, and my knee hit the dirt. And I remember just how bad that hurt. I mean, I thought I broke my kneecap, but fortunately we were young and held on, and that secured the game. But
that field was
a little nerve-wracking.
That field was frozen.
Yeah,
I mean, frozen dirt. And,
completely. I came out with a T-shirt and warm-ups, thinking, yeah, this is going to be fine. No, sir. I ran right back in and put some sleeves on. That was the right play.
Jim mentioned earlier about you playing 3 sports. A couple questions off that. Are you glad you did? And was there ever a point where you questioned which sport was going to be your future?
Yes, yeah. I mean, great question. Glad I did 100%. There's no way you were going to keep me out of one of those sports. I mean, ironically, if I had to pick favorites back then, basketball was my favorite, and then football, and then baseball. So I knew each sport made me better in that other sport, respectively. So, sometimes, when the football season carried on as long as it did, I mean, it was a blessing, and it was all for it. And then you jump on the basketball court, you're about 2 weeks behind. So that was a bit of an adjustment. It would take me a couple weeks to get back. You were a little physical. You're knocking guys over. You're not realizing it, but. So I had to play catch up, but it was nonstop. It was one to the other, to the other, to the other, and I just found that basketball was always a little bit later because we were winning, and junior year was kind of the same thing. Always like to mention those guys, Phil, Doug, Habib. We all like to bring up the class of '88, their football team, or '89 was our year, but the '88 class didn't get the chance to go on to the state game, and it's unfortunate because we would have had back-to-backs, and it's got to be tough for those guys,
Yeah.
We're always getting together,
and the coach.
We always think about those guys because we should have been back to back. But what are you going to do? We were fortunate to have a chance to do it again. But
They started the state playoffs in '88, and our school board elected not to participate.
And Central Catholic went that year, correct?
We beat
Yes.
Central Catholic, and then they went on, yes, and won.
You
Yeah,
mentioned
so-
that you were one of 9 children. Where were you in the mix?
7. I was number 7. So
So you were the 7th youngest. You're saying.
yeah, I was third youngest. I had a younger brother, younger sister.
third young.
5 brothers, 3 sisters.
Okay. Now you also said that your backyard was a mini Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
Was that a premonition that you were going to be a star for the Chicago Cubs? Or
You know, I don't know. I don't think so, but it was. That was
I
my.
mean, it wasn't a mini Forbes Field. It was a mini.
Yeah, it was kind
Wrigley
of a mini
Field.
Wrigley. We had the stone walls, but they weren't all the way around. We had our stone landscape wall down the left field line, and the center field line was our neighbor's yard, which he didn't really prefer that, but his lawn was meticulous. So, but his center field wall was they weren't all the way across, but they were about 10, 12 feet long. And then they had the shingles going across the brick. So there was a lot of rules. If you hit a line drive on the driveway, it was an automatic hit. A lot of rules to really force me and everybody to hit line drives. So I think that's something that helped me for sure. But we really didn't have a right field, so probably one of the main reasons I like to hit the ball from center field to left field. But otherwise, Mr. Meyer would have probably called the police on us. God bless him. He handled it pretty well. We were out there all the time. So we do our own grounds crew. We had to rake the dead spots. My dad would forbid us from playing for 2 weeks, and he'd go out of town for business, and then he'd fly above and see us down there. You could see the outline. So it was funny. A lot of great stories, but. But yeah, I mean, to finish your question, Lanny, it came down late. It was a tough decision what I wanted to do because, fortunately, there was opportunities, albeit late in my high school career. So I had to make a decision what I thought was best, moving forward. And first offer I received was to play basketball at St. Vincent College. And I wanted to do that, but one of 9, again, you get a scholarship opportunity. I was going to take it and help my parents out, but wasn't my first choice. I would like to play basketball maybe higher up, but I was one and done. So each year, by the end of the season, I had some choices, and football, coach we had schools in and out of there all the time. From we had the Akrons and Pitts and the Ivy schools, and so I'd make a decision, and I just thought. What would be best for me in the future, being completely honest with myself and my abilities would probably be baseball, albeit my third favorite sport.
To fast forward a little bit on this, Lanny, he got a scholarship opportunity to Indiana University. That was kind of late in the summer.
In
wasn't it?
Bloomington or
Bloomington.
Bloomington? Okay.
Yeah, it was very late. So,
Which you accepted.
I did, yeah. I'd actually signed with St. Vincent I certainly didn't sign expecting to get out of the agreement, but with Indiana coming late and it was a better opportunity, because it was a NAI, I think it was D2 NAIA, you could physically opt out of the contract, if you will. So I ended up doing that and signing with Indiana, and it was a stressful time. Bernie Matthews was the coach at St. Vincent. I don't know if you remember that name. He was there for a long time, and I used to go to basketball camp there in Bernie Matthews camp. So that was kind of neat how that came around, but it was stressful. I mean, it was upsetting, and he was not happy with me. But sometimes things happen, and they happen for a reason.
Let me ask you about your favorite memory playing basketball, and then in high school, and then a favorite memory playing baseball at Upper St. Clair.
Favorite memory, basketball. It's really hard because we lost in the playoffs to McKeesport. That was very frustrating. I hadn't really fully gotten over that because it just kind of ended abruptly, and I didn't have an impact at the end of the game that I was hoping I would. But I think really just having a few big games and it really in front of my parents being so close. You know, after the game, I had the opportunity, or before the game, I had the opportunity to walk home. So I'd stop in the gym and, you know, shoot for an hour, walk home, eat, and then come back down to the gym. And I think just that routine, you know, and then meeting up with my friends after the game, you know, having guys like Todd Blodgett come and pick me up because I didn't have a car. And I wasn't allowed to drive a car when I was old enough to drive a car very often, but it was really just that. It was just how easy it was, and being able to go out there and play the position I love to play, like a two guard, and have some big games in front of my parents. And if I didn't have a big game, that's fine. But if I acted up or did something wrong in school, my dad was the first one waiting by that tunnel along the side of the bleachers, and he would just point at me and straight home. So. You know, it was a lot of fun. It keeps you out of trouble. Sports are great and keeps you busy. So basketball, yeah, trying to get over that loss at the end, but just playing with my buddies and, you know, Mark Gentili, who moved into my neighborhood, you know, after the fact from Bethel Park and ended up being our quarterback, and he was our center at the time. Just being able to do that was great. Baseball, really the same thing. You know, we lost in the playoffs, but that little routine with, you know, Danny Lawler and everybody just coming and picking us up, it was almost like a club sport at the time. You know, it's totally different than today. I mean, it's not even comparable. You know, we'd get a few swings, we'd take some ground balls, you know, a few cutoffs and relay drills, and practice was over. But just playing with my friends, guys I play with really most of my life, Kevin McKeever, on down from Little League, and then getting the opportunity to continue it in high school was, I think, it's what made it fun, but what made our team successful. You know that core group of guys that are just comfortable playing with each other. So you're really not fazed by a whole lot when you know challenges present themselves.
Let's move on to IU baseball.
No football? No football memories?
Well,
I think that's pretty easy.
yeah, well,
You
we
know, that's a
covered
state
that.
championship.
Well, we talked about the interception. There's more, right?
Well, winning the state championship. Football season, you know, it's hard. It's laborious. I mean, you're smacking heads. 3 days, which you don't do any of that now, and it drags on. But as long as you're winning, I mean, there's no sport like it. And
You returned a interception in Three River Stadium too, didn't you?
yeah, yes, had an opportunity
North
kind of.
Hills in the WPIL championship.
Yeah, that was nice because the first game at North Hills, you know, the nationally televised game, we struggled the first half and they didn't, and then we just settled down to kind of a base defense. And man, Doug Whaley had a big score at the end of the first half, and
Right.
Habib, and that's one of the tougher games we've played. But I didn't get a chance to make a big play that game. Benders were on. There just wasn't a whole lot of opportunity, so it was frustrating not to make some kind of impact, you know, as a receiver, a D-back, mainly a D-back. You want to make that big play. So the game at Three Rivers was nice because I got to kind of break the game open, cut through that early stress of what's going to happen, and it really did. I think we relaxed completely after that and then just started playing downhill and were able to win that game. That was tremendous.
We played North Hills twice. Regular season, nationally televised on Sports Channel America.
Yeah.
Mortarelli Stadium was packed, and we came from 26-7 at halftime. We came back and won
27-26, yeah.
Then
was
we
incredible.
We met him again at Three Rivers. I think, as I recall, we scored the last 27 points of the first game and the first 38 points of the second game.
Huh.
So, fond memories.
It's
A
amazing.
lot of fun.
He's got all these games in his repertoire, and he can pick them out, can't he?
Sure can. I mean, that
Don't
has
cha-
to be tough. It's a little easier for us, but
Don't challenge
it's a
me
lot
on
of football.
too many more games.
Yeah, it's a lot of football, but yeah, what just amazing experiences. And you know, of course, my family was there. My dad had a work skybox, so they were looking up there, you know, throughout the game and after the touchdown. And all you could see was silver Coors Light cans, because that was the, that's what the fridge was loaded with that day. So I don't know what they went through, but it was a bit of the silver bullet. But hey, it works. So that just no better experience than doing something, especially in front of your family.
Well, then when you went back and the first time you went through the press gate at Three Rivers Stadium as a Chicago Cub, did you think back to the football?
Everything, absolutely. Everything goes through your mind. It was the same stadium. I remember going there for an interview after I got drafted up in the booth, and they were playing the Cubs. So I went down there and was just trying to, embrace it all and process it all. It's almost impossible to really process. It still seems so far away because a lot of guys I grew up watching, that Grace and Sandberg, on down the line were out there playing, and they were, could be potentially my teammates. So that was a little scary, but I'm very grateful that I was able to at least play in Heinz Field, Three Rivers, and the opportunity to play at PNC Park in the new ballpark. So that was pretty cool. I mean, not much more I could ask for, being from here and getting the opportunity to play in those stadiums.
Did you tell your Cub teammates of your exploits in Three Rivers?
That's a good question. I don't think I did. There was a couple guys that would bring it up and joke about it. It's usually the pitchers that pay more attention to position players' backgrounds and bios. But yeah, it's not something I brought up very often, but there were some pitchers that like to bring it up and joke about it. You go in somebody's home city and, they start joking about, where's your picture, things like that. But no, that really wasn't something that I like to do very often, but it was fun being there. That turf was not like the turf today, though.
No.
No, it was kind of like this right here with some seams across it. It was nice. Between that and Montreal or Cincinnati Riverfront, Montreal, worst turf, Cincinnati, and then probably Pittsburgh. So they needed it. It was time for a change.
I wonder, there's a good chance that there's a number of people watching this interview that may not appreciate for an athlete to make it to the major leagues from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Is quite remarkable.
Yeah, it was different. I'm proud that I was able to do that, but I'm happy now that as I see more players from this area, Western PA, are getting looks. They're actually coming here to scout legitimate baseball talent. So it's definitely here, and I like to think I was at least part of that process. But yeah, I mean, by today's standards, I do think about it with trying to play three sports, not playing a sport year round, like they kind of almost force you to do right now, or you fall behind. And the way things happen so late for me, there's no telling what would have happened if it would have worked out in today's climate, with the expectations of playing more than one sport, let alone three. So I'm happy about that, but it makes me wonder, and it will forever remain a concern, especially for guys that played multiple sports, that the setup today is not the proper setup with sports, the way they do it. Something needs to change. It's not a good scenario, and you're forcing people down a path, and you never know. I would have probably picked basketball, have been my favorite sport. 6'4", I didn't exactly play above the rim. Now, you would have been able to develop, but did I think I was going to the NBA? That's one of those situations. I said I was just being honest with myself. I probably would have been an uphill climb, but I would have gone down that path, and I never would have got the chance to play baseball and see what would have developed. And unfortunately, that's kind of what goes on today. And I don't agree with it at all, but I don't know how I can change it.
I mentioned earlier you were a number one pick of the Cubs, and then you were highly considered as a Rookie of the Year candidate. 97, that would have been, right?
Yes.
97. Okay. Mm-hmm. Give us some thoughts about that rookie year with the Cubs.
It was great. It was really the ability to just kind of go in there. It was scary, don't get me wrong. All veteran team. Again, the Grace, Dunston was at short, Sandberg at second, I was at third at 24. Still in kind of sticker shock, looking around and trying to take all that in Henry Rodriguez, Sammy Sosa, all veteran ball club. But those guys were still, it was obviously the old school, which I prefer. So I just went out, played my game, played hard, didn't say anything. They didn't really try to do too much with me offensively, as far as changing. Go what's made you successful getting here. Just keep doing it. And I like that. Just kind of no news is good news, and just went about my business and mainly tried to do the right thing so the veteran guys respected me. And I think I did that. And that's easier climate. Today it's a little different. The bat flips and I would sit if the bus was empty and there was one other guy on the bus, going say to the airport or to to the ballpark, I would double up, right? So you always in fact, I sad to say I actually got in a fist fight on the bus leaving San Fran because I wanted to double up with a young player and he wouldn't double up with me.
Oh.
He was a Rule 5 free agent. It was his first year, so I was actually a veteran compared to him. So he didn't move over, and I asked him a couple of times politely, and it didn't end well. But I think something like that, not that I walk around and get in fights for a living, Lanny, but it gained the respect of the guys on the bus, because that's kind of a lost art nowadays, and it made my job a little easier. Just go and play and not worry about hitting home runs. Just play your game and play it the right way. But man, what a year, but terribly, terribly stressful. Baseball is a stressful game. You know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of work, and and we all know that era became, was asterisk around several players. It got more and more difficult to try to compete at that level. Doing it naturally. So that's a whole different animal. But the first year I was kind of oblivious. I really didn't think it was going on like it was. And then the second year I started to realize, okay, this is why it's so difficult,
Yeah. We have a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
Tell us about your 3 daughters.
3 daughters. Oh, wow. Ava, Kara, and Alexa.
What are their ages?
10, 12, and 13.
10, 12, and 13?
Yep. Doing well. They're all in a Catholic school in Aspinwall, CDTCA it's called, and playing sports, basketball and lacrosse, and some gymnastics, soccer. We've had a busy road. It's they lost their mother in 2013, so it's been quite the adjustment. Making the best of it. Still upsetting, but.
What's the best advice you give to your kids?
Really the biggest advice after everything they've been through is pretty much, I don't want them using that as an excuse, as hard as that is. It's real easy to do, especially in today's climate with everything so sped up and social media, and I think they're sick and tired of me. But I'm not going away. I'm constantly preaching about making the best of the situation and having the best life possible, despite a tremendous hurdle that they went through. You can't dwell on it. You have to live your life and live it to the best of your abilities, and respect the name on the back of the jersey, and know that your mother would have wanted you to do exactly this, and don't use it as a crutch or a handicap moving forward.
I think you told me you bought a house across from Fox Chapel High School so that your daughters could experience some of the things you did living.
Yes, yeah, I did. It really worked out. A house wasn't on the market, and a friend said I should look at it, and I really wasn't looking in that area. And I thought about it, and a lot of things made sense with the house. But you could hear. I remember walking in to check it out. You could hear there was a game going on down at the soccer field. So we're kind of right above the stadium. So I heard the band was playing, and the announcement, and it was just it was surreal. It was just like Upper St. Clair, and I wanted them to experience that, have the ability to walk to and from the high school, and have kind of my house as the epicenter for hopefully some sports moving forward with my daughters, and just making the most of it. So there we are. So hopefully the commute will be a whole lot easier. It takes a little pressure off of my plate as well with the carpooling.
Kevin, thank you for joining us. God bless you. And
thank you guys.
We all know, those of us who have such high regard for Upper St. Clair, We know that what makes this community great is the people, and you're one individual that has been a shining star in this community. Congratulations to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank all you guys for everything you do for the community. And, what in our eyes makes us just, a step above. And we believe it, and it shows on and off the field with most of the ex-players.
Thanks, Kev.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Coach.
Kevin Orie joining us on 15241 Today Talk. Thank you, friends, for joining us.